Welcome to Vegas Hockey Hub here in the sports entertainment capital of the world, Las Vegas, Nevada, here on prconnectionsradio.com, the voice of new media. I'm your host, Ian Rachiele. We have an amazing show planned out for all of you tonight. When it comes to the NHL season, it's a long process, right? There's a long way in a full 82-game season in the NHL. So with it being 25 games into the year, 25% into the season, here on Vegas Hockey Hub, we're going to be doing this 4 times throughout the year. We're going to be doing it 25% mark, 50% mark, 75% mark, and then right when the playoffs are about to start, predicting the Stanley Cup playoffs. I find it fascinating because we will see how wrong we are at certain points in the season, what teams were buying into the hype, and what teams do we believe are not going to be in the playoffs, and what teams are going to be in your situation. Now, before we get into the teams that are going to be in the playoffs, we break down the playoff matchups. We're going to quickly discuss the teams that are going to miss the playoffs at this point. So in the Atlantic Division, we're going to start with them. So the Atlantic Division, you have a certain situation where only a few teams are going to make it out of the Atlantic Division. Here's the teams that are not. So the Detroit Red Wings, they have built some solid progress. They've been doing pretty well in terms of what they've done the last 4 or 5 years. But unfortunately, the Detroit Red Wings will be 1 year away. Right, Detroit is going to be a playoff team, but it's not going to be this year. So they will miss the playoffs. They'll be a 9th seed. They'll be a 10th seed. They will barely miss in the Eastern Conference. They'll be the first team out in the Atlantic. Same for the Florida Panthers, the Darlings, the team that finished first not even 12 months ago. Florida has actually struggled very much this season, so it's going to take a lot for them to get out of that hole. I do not see it happening. You also have the Montreal Canadiens, the team that had the number 1 overall pick. I'm sorry, hate to break bad news, but when it comes to the Montreal Canadiens, they do not have what it takes. They are not going to be able to go out and win and get into the playoffs. The Montreal Canadiens, they'll be out as well. Buffalo Sabres, they started out pretty strong the first 2.5 weeks. Now they have fallen back down to reality, and they are not ready to be a playoff team. That playoff streak is going to continue in Buffalo. And the Ottawa Senators are still in a deep rebuild. Nothing they can do, unfortunately. So the teams that are going to be out in the Atlantic, Detroit, Florida, Montreal, Buffalo, and Ottawa. Moving over to the Metro side of it, you are going to have the Washington Capitals. Alex Ovechkin is a generational talent, a future Hall of Famer, but unfortunately, this team is not going to be saved by Alex Ovechkin. This team is not going to be carried into the wild card like it was as recent years with Alex Ovechkin. They will be out. Philadelphia Flyers, they do not have it. This is a team that keeps on losing time and time again in crueling defeat. So Philadelphia will be out. In the Columbus Blue Jackets, you spent all your money on Johnny Gaudreau, and you really did not spend on anything else. So Columbus, you will be out as well. So on the Eastern Conference side of it, those are going to be teams that will be out in the 2023 Stanley Cup playoffs. On the Western Conference side of it, this is going to be very interesting, folks. But I have the defending, reigning Stanley Cup champion Colorado Avalanche. They will be out of the playoffs. This is a team that has not been consistent. They have been on a 4-game losing streak at times. They lost some good talent in the offseason after winning the Stanley Cup championship. And really, when it comes to Colorado, they just have not been consistent enough to be a playoff this year. So your reigning defending champions, I have them as out in the 2023 Stanley Cup playoffs. Similar to the Minnesota Wild. Minnesota Wild, they made the playoffs in 2022. The goalie situation, the injury situation has been piling up in Minnesota. They are not going to be able to do it, so I have them as out. The National Leaders, they do not have enough talent at the current moment to get into the playoffs. They might be 2 years away. St. Louis Blues, they started out won their first 4 games, and they have crashed and cratered ever since. So St. Louis Blues, that's another team that will be out. You have the two bottom feeders of the Central Division, Arizona playing in a college hockey arena. They will not make it. And Chicago Blackhawks, they sold out. They sold all their talent away. He's going to be gone. Jonathan Toews, the captain, he could be gone once his contract is up. So Chicago, the mighty have fallen. They will be out of the playoffs as well. And on the Pacific side of the bracket, the 3 teams that will miss the playoffs, Vancouver, they struggled the first 10 games of the year. They are continuing to struggle 25 games into the year. And the Vancouver Canucks, simply put, are stuck in mediocrity. They need to enter the full rebuild, and they seriously have to make some trades for Horvat, just for starters. The San Jose Sharks out there in California, they are in a rebuild right now. They are not done in that rebuild. So outside of Erik Karlsson, who's having a defenseman player of the year type of year, Erik Karlsson, he's been their highlight, but pretty much everybody else hasn't. So San Jose not going to be a playoff team. And the Anaheim Ducks have been the worst team in hockey this year without even a second guess. So when it comes to that organization and everything, they're a joke. Hey, Thomas, I appreciate the support, man, like you always do. So those are the teams first that are going to miss the Stanley Cup playoffs. But before we break down the bracket, I had to talk about who I have not making it first. So moving over to the actual matchups, we're going to go to the first round. We're going to go to the Eastern Conference, and we're going to start out with the Boston Bruins as the number 1 seed, taking on the number 8 seed, the second wild card, and that is the New York Rangers. Now, New York Rangers, unfortunately, have not been as dominant as people expected them to be. Gerard Gallant, Artemi Panarin, Mika Zibanejad, there is a lot of talent with the New York Rangers organization. They added some toughness, Ryan Reeves over to be on that bottom 6 as an enforcer-type role, and then they swiftly got rid of him because they realized they didn't need that on the bottom 6. So it hasn't been a great start for the New York Rangers, but what they do have is one of the best top 6 in all of hockey. You have a top 2 goalie, and Igor Shesterkin. And the New York Rangers have a defensive core that is built off of their youth. So New York Rangers, they will squeeze in as the final wild card in the NHL Eastern Conference. Boston Bruins have been the most dominant team in the Eastern Conference, the most in the Eastern Conference up to this point. Boston right now has been strong, especially when they play TD Garden. They're near unstoppable when they're playing at the Garden. So when it comes to the second round, who would I to move on in this matchup? Give me the Boston Bruins here. As much as I would love to give the New York Rangers a nod, they do not have the clutch gene. They do not have the strength in numbers like the Boston Bruins do. So I would have the Boston Bruins beating the New York Rangers in this matchup. Then sticking with the Atlantic, we're going to go to a matchup that happened last playoff. Is going to happen again in this year's playoff. And that would be the Toronto Maple Leafs taking on the Tampa Bay Lightning. You have the defending Stanley Cup representatives from the Eastern Conference, and the team that went back to back in the Stanley Cup Finals, taking on a team that hasn't made it out of the first round since 2004, an organization who has not won a Stanley Cup since 1967. And as much as Toronto Maple Leafs fans want to get out of the first round, it is not happening. The Toronto Maple Leafs, the curse, the streak, it's going to continue. So give me the Toronto Maple Leafs to lose to Tampa Bay Lightning in the first round of the Stanley Cup playoffs on the Atlantic side of the bracket. Staying with the Eastern Conference here, you will have the New Jersey Devils as the number 2 seed, the best team in the Metro, taking on the first wild card team, the 7th seed. That'd be the Pittsburgh Penguins. The Pittsburgh Penguins has a weird dilemma in hockey because the New Jersey Devils have been strong. They've been consistent. The New Jersey Devils have been a bright spot in the NHL. Last year, on another show that I was doing, I thought the New Jersey Devils would be the breakout team in 2021. Well, it turns out I was 1 year off, and I was jumping the gun just a little bit because the New Jersey Devils have been the breakout team of 2022 in reality. The goalie situation has surprisingly held up. Their defensive core, led by Dougie Hamilton, has been superb. And Jack Hughes, Nico Hoischer, Tomas Tatar. You also have some good talent in that organization in New Jersey, like Eric Holla, former Vegas Golden Knight. So I would give the New Jersey Devils the edge in this matchup. The Pittsburgh Penguins, it's nice for you to show up. Here's your participation trophy, and here is your mediocrity as defined. You're going to be in the playoffs. You're going to be out in the first round. Still have Crosby, still have Malkin. Unfortunately, you're not going to have Chris Letang. So it'll be interesting to see what Pittsburgh does from now. Brian Burke, Ron Hextall, the people in Pittsburgh, are they going to start a rebuild? Or are they going to continue the boat of mediocrity in the NHL? So that was my eastern side of the bracket for the NHL playoffs in the first round. Just to repeat it, I will have the Boston Bruins beat the New York Rangers. Tampa Bay Lightning will beat the Toronto Maple Leafs. New Jersey Devils will beat the Pittsburgh Penguins. And the New York Islanders will lose to the Carolina Hurricanes. So moving over to the Western Conference and talking about the West in this situation, really the best team in hockey right now, let's talk about your Vegas Golden Knights. The number 1 seed in the Western Conference, the Pacific Division champion, Vegas Golden Knights. And they would take on the 8th seed, take on the second wild card team, and that would be the Calgary Flames. Calgary has enough talent to make it to the playoffs. I do not doubt that. But Vegas is on a steamroll. The Vegas Golden Knights are determined to win a Stanley Cup. They are in that mode right now where the Stanley Cup playoffs is going to be ran in Vegas. So this one's going to kind of be an easy answer. Jacob Markstrom's going to have to perform on his head every single night. But it's not going to matter. It's not going to matter at all. Because the Vegas Golden Knights, they are going to win this round here, move on to the second round. So then moving on to the second part of the Pacific Division, Seattle Kraken, the second-year expansion team, taking on the Los Angeles Kings, the team that got eliminated in the first round last year. And this is going to be a surprise, folks. Because as much as I want to give it to the LA Kings, as much as I want to give the Los Angeles Kings the nod in this situation, the Seattle Kraken have been the pleasant surprise story. They have been the breakout team in the Western Conference. I do not expect most people to believe that Seattle would be the third best team in the West 25 games in. I don't believe that most people would have assumed that the Seattle Kraken would have been this good 2 years in. And the Seattle Kraken with their goalie situation with Martin Jones, this is going to be a team that's going to get the nod from your host, Ian Rachiele. So have the Seattle Kraken, the 3 seed, taking on the Los Angeles Kings, the 6 seed, and I will have the Seattle Kraken beating Los Angeles. Give me Seattle over LA. And then continuing the first round conversation on the Western Conference side, we have the second seed and the Central Division winner, which would be the Dallas Stars, taking on the number 7 seed, the first wild card team, and that would be the Edmonton Oilers. I mean, the Dallas Stars, Pete DeBoer has really turned around that team for the better, and Jake Ottinger has become an elite goalie. Miro Heskinen's leading that defense, and Jason Robertson has become one of the best players in the NHL. Tyler Seguin, Jamie Benn moved to the side. Jason Robertson is now the face of the offense in Dallas. Edmonton Oilers, it is the same trick and pony show. It is the same two players that dominate that organization. You have Connor McDavid, you have Leon Draisaitl, and more importantly, you might have a goalie in Stuart Skinner, but not the free agent acquisition of Jack Campbell. Now, the goalie situation is why I will take Dallas here in this matchup. So give me the Dallas Stars over the Edmonton Oilers. So 2 versus 7, that would be the matchup there. And the 4 versus 5 matchup, I will take the Winnipeg Jets over the Colorado Avalanche. The Colorado Avalanche will not get it done. They will be sitting on their couch watching the Stanley Cup playoffs. So, doing our 2023 predicting the Stanley Cup playoffs, 25 games into the season here on Vegas Hockey Hub. I'm your host, Ian Rachiele. Now, getting to the second round, getting to the semifinals here on this show, you have the Boston Bruins taking on the Tampa Bay Lightning. And, the Boston Bruins, they're going to get the slight edge here for one main reason. I believe that the overall depth of the Boston Bruins is better than Tampa's. Because of all the talent that has been stripped away from the Tampa Bay Lightning the last 4 seasons, ever since their Stanley Cup run started, it has slowly rotted away the bottom 6 in Tampa. It has slowly rotted away your bottom defensive pairing in Tampa. So they do not have the strength in numbers that they once did in Tampa, whereas Boston still has it to this day. So give me the Boston Bruins here in this matchup. I will take Boston over Tampa Bay. And then you have the New Jersey Devils taking on the Carolina Hurricanes. And I wouldn't have assumed this would be the matchup 25 games in. I wouldn't have called this being the matchup. But 25 games in, here's our reality. The New Jersey Devils and Carolina Hurricanes are 2 of the best teams in the Eastern Conference. But unfortunately, only one team can go to the next round. The other one's got to go home packing. And the New Jersey Devils have a more well-rounded organization. They have a better roster from top to bottom. So give me the New Jersey Devils over the Carolina Hurricanes. Now, on the western side of it, we are going to have the Vegas Golden Knights, Seattle Kraken, a second-round matchup, 2 of the recent NHL expansion teams. And Seattle, you bet a feel-good story. You have been the Mighty Ducks of Anaheim. You've been a Disney-like following. But Seattle does not have enough for the Misfits. The Kraken and the Crackheads do not have enough to go up and defeat the Fortress. So give me the Vegas Golden Knights to advance and beat the Seattle Kraken. And then this matchup here, the Dallas Stars with the Jets. The Winnipeg Jets are nice, and yes, Connor Hellebuyck is a big reason as to why they get to the second round. But even then, Jake Ottinger, Connor Hellebuyck, second round matchup. I trust Jake Ottinger. He is the future in net in the NHL. He's going to be a prime example of why you select a goalie in the first round. So give me the Dallas Stars here over the Winnipeg Jets to get to the Western Conference Finals. So it would be set here 25 games into the season, predicting the 2023 Stanley Cup playoffs. So in the Eastern Conference Finals, it would be the Boston Bruins and New Jersey Devils. On the Western side, it will be the Vegas Golden Knights taking on the Dallas Stars. So the Western Conference Finals, you're going to have Bruce Cassidy taking on Pete DeBoer. You will have a former coach of the Vegas Golden Knights taking on the current coach of the Vegas Golden Knights. You're also going to have a situation where this is a rematch of the 2020 Western Conference Finals. The bubble. Do you remember the bubble in 2020? Yeah, the Dallas Stars took on the Vegas Golden Knights in the Western Conference Finals that year. I'm predicting that 3 years later, you're going to get a rematch of that same finals between Vegas and Dallas. The main difference here is that there's going to be a different outcome than what happened in 2020. The Vegas Hockey Hub's prediction for the 2023 Stanley Cup playoffs, 25 games into the year, is that your Vegas Golden Knights are going to be hoisting a Stanley Cup playoff game here in Las Vegas. My prediction is that your Vegas Golden Knights will be the Western Conference Finals winner, and they will represent the Western Conference Finals in the Stanley Cup. So T-Mobile Arena, Vegas Golden Knights, they will be your Western Conference representative. Now, the Eastern Conference is going to be a very more difficult conversation. And you know what? I'm going to give it to you. The Boston Bruins, on paper, they look like the obvious pick. Linus Ullmark looks like the Vezina Trophy winner 25 games in. The Boston Bruins, Charlie McAvoy, that defense is lethal. And your forward core of the Boston Bruins, you have Pasta, Brad Marchand, you have Patrice Bergeron. There is so much scoring that's gone in Boston. They score 4 to 5 goals on average almost every single night out there in Boston. They are near unstoppable when they play at TD Garden. But there's one factor that Boston does not have. The Boston Bruins do not have the New Jersey Devils and their youth. The New Jersey Devils have so many young players on their roster that have never been to a Stanley Cup playoffs. There has been plenty of people on the New Jersey Devils side who have never been to a Stanley Cup final. There are so many players on the New Jersey Devils organization that are bright-eyed, less than 25 years old. They have been in the NHL for only a couple of years, but they are hungry, and they are ready, and they want to win a Stanley Cup championship. They want to be your 2023 Stanley Cup champions, and that 14-game winning streak was no coincidence. The New Jersey Devils have been firing on all 9 cylinders, and when it comes to New Jersey, their coaching staff, their management, it will be the main reason why the New Jersey Devils will face your Vegas Golden Knights in the Stanley Cup final. My prediction for the 2023 Stanley Cup is you have the Vegas Golden Knights taking on the New Jersey Devils, a Stanley Cup final you have never seen before. New Jersey, first time since 2012. Vegas, first time since 2018. And my prediction here on this show right here, right now, your Vegas Golden Knights, after 6 hard-fought games, will beat the New Jersey Devils. And your Vegas Golden Knights are going to be your 2023 Stanley Cup champions. And I will even go one step more. Your 2023 Stanley Cup MVP. All right, your finals MVP will be the face of the franchise, the guy you sold the entire farm system for, the chickens and the eggs to, your finals MVP for the Vegas Golden Knights will be number 9, Jack Eichel. Jack Eichel will finally not only be in a Stanley Cup playoff, not only will he be in his first Stanley Cup final, but Jack Eichel will hoist the Lord Stanley Cup and will be the finals MVP for your Vegas Golden Knights. So for all the people watching around the world, and for all the people that want to give their opinion, want to give your bracket, go down below, put it in the chat. Go on to all our social media at Vegas Hockey Hub. Go on to all of our stuff at PR Connections Radio. I want to know your input. I want to know from everyone watching all around the world, what bracket do you have? Who do you have as your Stanley Cup final 25 games into the year? And who do you have as your Stanley Cup champion? Here on Vegas Hockey Hub, we have the Vegas Golden Knights beating the New Jersey Devils in 6 games, and we will have Jack Eichel as our finals MVP. So, until next time, go support all the content on prconnectionsradio.com, the voice of new media. Shout out to Cozy Stone. She did an interview recently. It was incredible. Check out all of her content. And Guy Dawson, I appreciate him letting me be on the network. If it wasn't for him, this stuff would not exist. So, until next time, I'm your host, Ian Rachiele. Follow us on social media at Vegas Hockey Hub. And continue watching hockey. Support junior hockey. Go Knights, go. Until next time, have a good one.